Hello and good morning, folks. How's it going? This is Jack Devine coming to you from the dark and dismal bowels of my basement and recording studio. And today we are going to talk about the mighty Mixolydian and how to harness its powers to create sounds like that. I happen to love this section of my gigs. When I play with my Grateful Dead tribute band, Knock 'em Dead. Anyway, when we do that song, Scarlet-Fire, into, the Scarlet-Fire kind of suite of songs, right? That little middle section, right after the breakdown, the Heart of Gold band, don't, bum, bum, ba, da, ba, da. That whole section has some of the most amazing opportunities for us as guitar players to kind of be expressive and free within the confines of a song. Because there's no real expectations of a melody, except maybe variations on the theme that's established there in that bass figure. That. All right, so if we can start with that, we can start to think about logical places to take ideas. And then we can maybe take a moment to look at some tools that I'm using there consistently to create those sounds. And then last but not least, maybe consider some of the, sorry about this, too much milk this morning, maybe. I think it's my third latte. Having enough kind of fuel in the tank conceptually to kind of stretch for a while. So looking at some of the structural ideas that I'm examining. So let's start out with the sound. I'm on a Strat middle pickup, typical like mild overdrive. And what you want to do is you want to figure out a way to get your guitar to be touch sensitive, is the term that we always use. So that when played quietly with the gentle left, right hand or picking hand attack, sounds crystal clear. But when you dig in, it still has somewhere to go and kind of gets a little brassy on the attack. That kind of spitty. That's kind of where Garcia's sweet spot is until he turns on proper distortion. All right, and in the latter years he used, like the Boss distortion pedals, and I wasn't really terribly crazy about that. The playing was dynamite, but the tonal choice I definitely take issue with, but it seemed to work for him. So who am I to judge, other than a fan? So out of our B Mixolydian sound, all right, what is B Mixolydian but the lowly E major scale? Played from its fifth degree. So if we play the notes of E major from the note B, we get, all right, which is one note removed from what B major looks like. So a lot of people think, oh, well, we're playing over this B major chord, so therefore it must be B Ionian, but it's not. It's actually B Mixolydian, which is just the major 7 of that B is now brought down to accommodate that A note, okay? So now we end up with, which when we reconfigure the notes, looks exactly like, that's just starting the E major scale on its 5th note and playing an octave up is how most folks would, in like a geeky way, would say what it is. We wouldn't say it's in the key of B Mixolydian. We would say it's in the key of E major, but we're playing the B Mixolydian mode. Okay, so all that pedantic shit aside, all right, it's going to look an awful lot like your B major scale. It's just we're going to move this note back 1 note. It's not that big a deal. Okay, so if you're unfamiliar with that, that's going to be like these guys. Okay, and the chords that are happening in the loop are actually kind of vague, right? We're just kind of, I'm hearing I played the figure. And if we actually look at those notes that are being used in that figure, we can actually see some chords spelled out in an arpeggio manner, right? So 1, 3, 5, root and flat 7 of a B7 chord. Then we can see an F sharp minor chord. Right, that's the 2 of E, right? So, okay, so we have the 5 of E, the 2 of E, then the A. So that's that Lydian fourth. All right, that sound right there is really quite tense. All right, so there's that thing. And then last but not least, we have our E major chord. So if we look at that, we're seeing a B7, F sharp minor, A Lydian, and then an E triad. So we've got the 1, the 4, the 5, and the 2 already explicitly stated inside of there. So when I play that little riff and then just kind of put a droning B note over top of it on a bass, which is what I did, we get just put some floral stuff with some ambience. Now, granted, I harmonized the lick on the back half of it, right? So I took the B note, went up a third, and went. And then did some little, like. You'll hear that right here. Right up here. Where's that? Should be. So everybody's just kind of alluding to, all the members of that are just kind of quietly alluding to this, the notes surrounding this B Mixolydian sound, okay? So the chords outlined in there. So if you hear me go like, sorry, like that, and then all those kinds of sounds, if we do it with enough sensitivity and maybe distance from the primary riff, that they form this nice little pastiche or background behind everything. Hey, good morning from near Atlanta. Hey, good morning to you, sir. So the idea of creating this wash of kind of acceptable triads behind this B bass figure, right? That's what we're playing over here. Okay, so there's nothing too much to it, and let's take an examination of the lick itself that we're going to be using as the foundation for all of our soloing that comes afterwards. We should be thinking this bass motif while we're soloing, so that we're constantly referring back to the sound of the jam, right? You want to be free, but kind of connected at the same time, right? All right, so if we take this B note and we come up to its third, kind of, oh shit, I really cut myself this morning. Gnarly. The weird thing about being at home and fixing stuff all the time and being like kind of handsy is you end up injuring yourself. I've got 3 nice nasty wounds on my left hand, so take care of your hands, kids. Boom, 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 boom. Then pinky comes here. All right, and then middle finger, and then that's our lick. All right, so then if we harmonize that, we come to the third of the B, then the third of the F sharp, which is a minor third, and the third of the A, and then is just one note behind in the chord series, okay? So we end up with a nice little harmony of that bass figure. So now we have 2 tools to use. We have the melody and the harmony. Okay. if we take that and then kind of examine where we are in terms of playing the E major scale, we can see what we've got to work with here. Let's just start from... That wasn't a bad little phrase, actually, and it lacked all creativity. It was me literally just going down the scale, and then all I need to do is really end that stream of notes on one of the key tones of whatever chord we come to rest on, which is 99% of the time going to be the B chord, right? Because that's the whole thing is over a B7 drone, right? So if we start out there and just go... and let the music fill in the phrase. Climb. Let that happen. The idea is to kind of assert and then recede. Assert and then recede. That means be present and then withdraw, okay? The whole idea isn't to be constantly up in somebody's face as the soloist. That's totally annoying. You don't want to be that. You want to stick and move, all right? Work the jab, okay? So how do we do that? Let's just poke at it a little bit, right? Just do some little riffing over the B note. Okay, now the other technique we can use, aside from that kind of stick and move idea of where we're kind of asking ourselves a question as a soloist, kind of where you heard me kind of going, like kind of creating a theme within the theme. All right, the other thing we can do is when we stop, listen to what our compatriots, our bandmates actually are putting kind of in those spaces. And if you notice, my loop is actually quite long. I think it's four times through, like the pulse of the kind of arc of the riff itself. Boom, 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 boom. Like, I think there's 4 of those whole passages. So if I stop someplace and I hear some element of the loop, which is acting as a surrogate for the band I'm supposed to be playing with, and there's some element of it that pops out that captivates me, you can either echo it or respond to it or harmonize it or play on top of it because you know it's coming. So let's take a look at something like that. Let's just wait for an idea to pop through. I'll stop and see what happens, right? You see, I mean, the funny thing is I'm not doing all the work. The best thing is those guys, the band, right? they're adding a tremendous amount of what I'm doing just by shutting the hell up. Okay, my favorite thing in the whole world, this card, stop talking. All right, so the whole idea here is sometimes the best move is to just sit tight and let the world around you express itself, and then you might have something actually fresh to say. If you allow the random nature of life, now granted, I played all those things, so I know what it is, but I am actually not able to focus on that as intently as I am when I'm playing here. So when I stop and I come up for air, that's kind of like a conversation, okay? So me and those 5 little versions of me interacting, right? It's somewhat of like that scene in John Malkovich, being John Malkovich, where they're all like sitting around, Malkovich. It's like it's the me channel over here. Okay, I agree with that, if that was your critique of this. But the idea is that you should be with like-minded souls that are making this music for the same reasons and that roughly at the same caliber as you when you play. And so it wouldn't be too big a stretch, in my opinion, for my bassist to do something captivating, or for the rhythm guitar player to offer up something that was, apropos, or the drummer to do an inspired kind of interpretation of the rhythm, or the keyboard player to have something to offer. And then that would continue the conversation between us. And it's that conversational, randomized kind of methodology there that actually is at the center of the Grateful Dead's music. It's kind of like a psychedelic Dixieland of sorts. Right, so we pick up where our fellow bandmates leave off. We sometimes talk over each other and tell jokes about each other. Like the entire thing is kind of this conversational kind of fabric that we weave together, the 5 of us or 6 of us or however many people are in your ensemble. And the point is to get to that point where you're effortlessly riffing off of each other, and at the same time you're asserting and responding. So that's the point, okay? Assert, recede, okay? So the tools that I'm using here, a lot of the time, I am going to be accessing like a kind of a log pile, like a wood pile of just ideas that I've amassed over the years. But most of them stem out of your typical things, like if we look at the B Mixolydian sound right here, that's just playing out of the E major scale, right? So those are your Garcia 4s, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Then if we do thirds, just those 2 simple tools can actually sound pretty damn good, all right? So if we go, pause. Okay, so I used, maybe this little climbing motif. Oh, sorry. So it kind of came up. I will often look for patterns that repeat themselves or structures that stay constant across like maybe 3 or 4 intervals. So if we were to say, look at the B and F sharp, those 2 relate to the B Mixolydian scale. Down 2 frets, we end up with the E and the A. Down 1 fret, those 2 relate. Down 2 frets, those 2 relate. So starting on that B note there, right, we can now just use these parallel structures, right? Whoop. So that was me using these stacked intervals, right? Then sliding down, skipping the next scale tone and going, which is where I start. And then I think I went. Okay, so those are thirds. E major down in thirds. So stacked. All right, now that's just with a modicum of curiosity and recognizing, oh shit, look at that. That goes. That's easy. It's easy once you see it. When you hear it and it just comes randomly at you, you're sitting there going, wow, that guy really knows his business. The funny thing is, once you make the jump to knowing about that tool that exists and then realize that you're just grabbing that tool, it's not that big a deal. It's like, oh, I found my tool and I'm just using it like I always do. I know what that does. I know how it works. I just happen to have a screwdriver there. But the idea is, hey, it shouldn't really trip you out too much. You're just looking at like the notes that are going in stacks. Much easier that way. You're remembering one pattern across two strings, and you can kind of just let go a little bit while you're working with that, So that's a good example of just making something up on the fly. Now, we don't have to go like that. We could go or kind of get to know those symmetries. And once you start to explore those patterns, and if you're a creative guy or a girl, the idea might blossom into something else. Who am I to limit where you could take something as simple as that, right? Just because something is easy to understand doesn't mean it's not captivating. There are many beautiful things in life that are very simple, and they hold I'm just totally enraptured by them, okay? This simple kind of sound is definitely one of them. I love this, all right? So far we've got 3 tools, okay? Plus the 2 original motifs, okay? The harmony and the melody of the bass figure, all right? Now, maybe we could look at another grouping. We tried accessing the major scale in groups of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? We also did it in thirds. Dee da dee da dee da dee da dee da dee, right? So, yeah. Right, so that kind of thing, right? Okay, so if we can access, say, maybe an ascending figure, let's use 5s. Let's just try using 5s, okay? So that means a group of 5, and then we go to the next group, the next note in that scale. So again, once we know our E major scale, let's just play that. This is going to be something like, right? So you see that major 7 there? That's the third of our B7. So let's start on that. And that way it's going to sound like we're starting on a chord tone. So if we went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then came here with our pinky, because it's easier than jumping back here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pinky down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Middle finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's just try doing that, okay? It might take me a second to find my way into it. Okay, ascending in 5s. That sounds nice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. with me so far? Is any of that kind of sinking in? Like these little simple ideas. Now, granted, putting them together artfully, that takes some time. But the hard part is actually seeing that you can do these things. That's my contention, is that the actual execution of it, though it's been refined over years of doing it by me, the hard part is actually coming up with the idea itself. All right. So as long as that makes total sense, thank you, Hayes, for chiming in rather. The idea of doing it, okay, is at that point you're on the right path. You know where you're going, and you have a finished goal in mind, what that sounds like. And I'm pretty convinced that this is, like a gateway to a more free form of expression. It's like once you find another one of those pathways, I don't know, let's think of another one. Let's look at arpeggio, let's look at a triads, right? We all know what a triad is, right? That's the 1, the 3, and the 5. We already know that we're expressing I'm literally making this idea up on the spot, but let's see if theoretically we can make it hold water, all right? B7 arpeggio. There it is, right in the source material, okay? So this is my theory, is that there's inexcusable for a child or a student to misspell a word that's actually in the fucking question on the test, right? If the question is, what is the societal relationships between blah, 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 and you misspell the word societal relationships inside your answer, that just shows you weren't paying attention. It's literally right in front of you. So copy the information that you have. So we know that lick, right? We know that says that's a B7 arpeggio. We know that that's an F sharp triad, F sharp minor triad, A Lydian, and E major. All right, so let's take a look at just something. Let's just reduce all 4 of those structures to their simplest form. Okay, that'll be the triad. So 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5. Okay, so that's our B triad, A triad. Okay, F sharp minor triad. And E major triad. I'm using the same shape with the exception of the F sharp minor. I'm just lowering the 3rd. That's how we make a chord a minor. We take the major shape and take that back a fret. Okay, a little homework there. Okay, that's not the end of the world. Okay, so that's E major, B major, A major, and F sharp minor. All right, now the clever amongst you might have recognized that A major and F sharp minor are related majors and minors. So you might be able to then extrapolate from that we could take the B major and actually play G sharp minor, because that's its relative minor, and take E major and make it C sharp minor. And now we end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 triads that we can superimpose over top of our little B major, B Mixolydian groove. Let's just see how that works. I literally have never tried this before. And to help me along the way of sounding a little bit more creative, I'm going to put on my octave divider. And you're going to hear it at first. It's going to sound somewhat rudimentary. I'll just kind of I might even call out what I'm doing. And then you guys, hey, triads, cool. I was watching your video a few times on triad pairs. We could definitely get to that as well. The jam on Scarlet. Let's see what that said again. I just lost it. Here we go. Can I show an example of using triad pairs over the Scarlet jam? Absolutely. We'll do that next. Okay, so let's do this first, and then we'll take it as make that like a subsection A, okay, on this idea. All right, so let's just see what that sounds like. Up up the B, back down the A. That's all I did. Okay, let's try that F sharp minor thing. That sounds nice. Let's try the G sharp minor. The lower part sounds a little muddy in there. The upper part sounds nice. Let's try the E major. That sounds lovely. We just have to end on notes that aren't the E, right? The E is going to sound suspended fourth. It doesn't sound resolved. We want to end on. Or the B, that'll sound very resolved. Okay, and then last but not least, it was C sharp minor, right? So each of those ideas had their little successes and failures kind of baked into them. None of them had wrong notes. They can't have wrong notes. They can have less successful or less resolved sounds. But each of those tones is part of the E major scale. That part is assured through the fact that we're staying modally consistent, right? So if you're the coach of a basketball team and you don't put in the right configuration of players, right, you're not going to win the game. But you didn't do anything against the rules. It's not like you had 7 dudes on the court or something ridiculous, right? So you've got to just think in terms of the rules of music are pretty easy to understand, right? The 7 tones of the E major scale, reconfigured in numerous ways, will make some degree of acceptable sound, all right? And there's going to be the 3 primary breadwinners in there, right? Those 3 main players, the triad. And then there's a couple of other kind of second-tier characters in our little story, all right? And those are usually going to be the 2 and the 6, and that'll form your major pentatonic sound. And then you've got some more colorful players like the minor third and the flat fifth that you can bring in to create tension and resolution. And last but not least, you've got like these modal characters that are correct, but are more difficult to work with. They're kind of like, they're harder to work with. Your seventh and your fours. Those are going to be the notes that you really have to be aware of when you're on them to make sure that you're not creating a sour tension, all right? Now, or at least the feeling of feeling very unresolved, okay? So if the flat 7 sounds pretty good over top of that, but it wants to go ba-da-da-do-da. So that was just suspending the tension over top of that. Or it wants to go up a whole step, right? Story complete. Next chapter, right? See, and on that flat 7, where do you want to go up? Or do you want to go down? Or down, down? Flat 3. Not so bad if we go quickly up into the major third. Okay, So those are the tools that we kind of have at our disposal. We've got all those triads, maybe some extended arpeggios of each of those things. If we take the time to say, oh, the B dominant 7 arpeggio works over top of the B, the A Lydian arpeggio works over the A sound, the F sharp Dorian, all right? Because what are all those root notes tethered to, if not chords themselves and therefore modes within the E major scale? If we're playing out of the 5th mode of E major when we play over the B Mixolydian sound, then we should be able to see that that's E Ionian, F sharp Dorian, G sharp Phrygian, my least favorite. Okay. A Lydian, B Mixolydian, C Ionian, Aeolian, and then we have our Locrian here. Okay, the minor 7 flat 5 or half diminished sound over the E flat sound. A lot of you guys will probably neglect to use that, but you shouldn't. It's really quite an awesome sound. The arpeggio that's associated with that is a great substitute for playing over top of the 5. So if we took that, the root of the Locrian would be, stitch that so you hear that. All right, that shape that everybody tends to avoid, that 7th, they go, oh, Locrian, you don't need to know that. Bullshit. It's awesome. Sounds great. Listen. Oh, come on, start. There we go. Okay, so don't sleep on mode 7. It's killer, all right? Especially over 5. All right, 4 is the Lydian. Let's hear that sound. That fits in just perfectly. So that's using arpeggios of the various modes of E major superimposed on top of that B sound. Sounds really good to me. I'm not sure whether or not anybody else is digging that. Am I arpeggiating? There's an A. Okay, I didn't quite understand the question the way it was written. But basically, if we take the E major scale harmonize it in chords, right? That's do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. D sharp minor, flat 5 over E major. Yeah, but it's not really, we're not playing it over E major. We're playing it against the B7 chord, right? So when you look at how that, yeah, it's a D minor, so that's going to be a D sharp minor 7 flat 5, or they call it half diminished, right? Because it's just a lot less of a mouthful. All right, so that's mode 7 over mode 5 plays nice together. Okay, so really great sound. All right, so if you don't know that, then maybe this lesson was worth your time right there. All right. So if we start stacking up the various arpeggios of these things, let's start with mode 2. All right, that's F sharp Dorian. Okay, that's the F sharp, it's minor third, it's fifth, it's flat seven, it's root, it's minor third, it's fifth, it's flat seven, and then the six. Okay, so that's going to be an F sharp Dorian sound. Okay, let's try playing F sharp Dorian over top of our B Mixolydian. Sounds awesome. When the moon is in the seventh house, and the dark is Okay, so you can see how playing F sharp Dorian over top of that sounds so inside. That sounds great. Let's go and look at what was the other arpeggio that we talked about. We already did the A Lydian, we already did the B7. Just let's try the home arpeggio of the E major, right? Now remember what I said though, E is gonna sound very suspended over top of it. This sound, it wants to go back. So at the top of my arpeggio, you know, and at the beginning of the arpeggio, you might not want to start on the E note, but too, although like I said, the E note itself, which is, you know, obviously feels like a home bass shape, right? That note is the home bass within that shape. So you kind of have to work against yourself a little bit in there. And I would recommend that while you can use it, you have to kind of manicure it a little bit to make it. It's not quite as obvious a solution as doing the Dorian over the 5 or doing the 7 over the 5, okay? So modal interchange of arpeggios as well as just their triads. Yet another tool in your toolkit right now, all right? Let's talk about triad pairs, okay? Now, the cool thing is that we can take any of the E triad pairs, right? So if we went up here and went from F sharp to E over top of it, it'll sound pretty good. If we go, but the big daddy that most people use is triad pairs 4 and 5, okay? Those two, they kind of go back and forth between. So if we were to take, what are modes 4 and 5? They're A Lydian and B Mixolydian. So we already know that we've been talking about these two critters all day. So the thought of toggling back and forth between them should be we've led this horse to water, I think, at this point. But let's take a look at some specific examples, okay? And let's just make it super easy. Let's just start on the D, G, and B pair. A chord, B chord, A chord, B chord, A chord, B chord. And then we're back to the same. Okay, and these are the same shapes, right? Same, same, same. However, if we jump the line one shape and go right, we get an alternating shape, right? We get that to there, and then the same, and then, sorry, then another new shape, right? So if we hide our footsteps a little bit, maybe we'll do that in step number 2, all right? So let's take a look at how that sounds, right? Oh shit, hey. I guess we've got a delivery there. Can everybody hear me, or did the audio disappear? Sometimes weird things happen when my doorbell rings. All right, so I'll let that package linger here. So let's just look at what happens. We'll start on the A, which is going to sound kind of disconnected because you can hear me. Great, thank you very much for responding. I can't tell what folks are up to. Stop. Okay. Oh, still hear it. Good. Okay. So let's take a look at what happens. Over top of the A, we're going to hear. That sounds unresolved. So we're going. Or we could go. Okay, now let's try arpeggiating it. That's pretty self-evident, I think, that works. And we're doing it back to back to back to back to back, over and over and over again, kind of revealing the pattern. We don't have to use it that directly. We can use that in smidgens rather than like a structure of six arpeggios back to back. Look at me go, Mom! You know, like it doesn't have to be that obvious. We can just use it a little bit less directly, all right? So don't be afraid to learn it in bulk like that and make it very obvious, like here is the pattern, like here. Right, don't be afraid to learn it like that, but then don't be afraid to take it apart and rebuild it in maybe a more sophisticated manner. You could even, rather than going sequentially, not sequentially, like systematically up each one, you could skip, maybe go like A, like if we went A, right, so we went from A, skip this B and go to this B shape, then go back to, right, so we're kind of coming up and over and then back, A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, like that. You could do that, okay? We don't have to always stay on the G, the D, G, and B set either. We could go, here's the B, to A, to B, to A, to B. So skipping around not only within the string sets that are here, but also along the stretch of the board, right? Okay, and don't forget, always think about connecting one tool with another tool. What did you see me do? I played the melody, boom, at the top of that line. So I connected the B to the A, sorry, the B to the A, to the B, to the A, to the B. And then went boom, boo-doo-da-da, boo-doo-da-da, right? And then I think I went and kind of just riffed out a little bit, okay? But I could have gone and played the whole figure, right? It appears as though I've been taken out by the dreaded fucking phone call thing. When I get phone calls, weird things happen. Do not disturb. Too late now, I'm sure, but whatever. Let's see what's happening here. Let's go back. Maybe I can get you back online here. Hey, it seems like I'm back. Yeah, sorry. Just cannot see you now. Whatever. You hear me struggling. That's the problem with this old man being at the helm of a digital empire. Oh, sorry guys. I know. I fixed it somehow. I don't know how I did it, but I got you back. So the idea of utilizing all those tools, the hard part is realizing that you don't have to strap yourself into the use of just a single idea, but that they all are accessible at all points in time. And if your brain is agile enough to kind of hop from one into the next along the road, hey, good morning, everybody. If your brain is agile enough to hop in from one to the next, to the next, to the next, you can really create a very varied tapestry of sounds, okay? And so far today, we've probably talked about 5 or 6 different approaches, none of which really are specific to, there's no specific lick associated with anything, all right? We're just kind of utilizing a concept, which you are totally supposed to backfill in with your own interpretation of what I'm talking about. Now, if you want to actually use the exact things that I did, obviously you can take this lesson and slow it down. Or if you're interested in taking private lessons, that can happen. Or I can pivot to talking about what's coming in the future here for you and me and others. I am going to go and create like an online school where something like this would be happening, maybe 2 or 3 times a week. And so if you value this kind of content, I appreciate the kindness of the YouTube community over the years, but after a little while, it just becomes obvious that I can't keep pouring time away for nothing. And there are a lot of people that are interested in taking lessons, and I love teaching. So in an effort to have enough time to be myself, I would like to offer you guys, or at least make you aware of the fact that while I will be doing the occasional office hours still here on YouTube to kind of wave the flag of the snack school, that I will be offering, and it'll be at a substantial difference in price to taking private lessons from me. And you will get quite a lot of access, not as much as like the private student stuff. But the point is, if I could teach 50 people in a week rather than 25 people in a week, I think I'll be happier actually, because I think I could teach 50 people in less time than it takes me to teach 25 individually. So the hope is that individual lessons still exist, but they won't necessarily have to be on the weekly kind of thing. It'll be like people can pick them off as like an a la carte item after they've looked at some of the specifics that we cover and the general idea, and I'm interested in hearing anybody out there's feedback on. There's 15 people, so maybe I could use you guys as a target audience here, and you could let me know what so there would be, let me explain so there's a question, would the group lessons be live? Yes, there would be several lectures like this, I guess, or that word lecture is just so pejorative, it's so loaded. I feel like it's better to think about it as like a guitar hang or something like that. I don't know how better to explain it. But the idea would be that we would start the week with like a lick of the week, okay? And by the end of the week, I'd love to see everybody post a version of it onto, and we'll have like a leaders board. And if you guys aren't competitive folks, that's fine. But it's an opportunity for you to share your playing with me, and for me to evaluate and give you guys back some feedback. And as long as there aren't like, I mean, I guess I should be careful of what I wish for. Imagine 1,000 people participating in that. That could be more work than it's worth. But I doubt it. I think most people are, like, I'll give that one a whirl and see what happens, or maybe I'll limit it to the first 100 submissions, and then pick the top 5 and break them down and share what made them great, in my opinion. And that's just one man's opinion. So you know what they say about opinions, right? So. All right, so that would be Monday and Friday. All right, Tuesday and Thursday, we're going to have 2 of these live streams, okay? They could be 2-3 hours. I don't know what they're going to be, and they'll be recorded and stored there. So you'll have a Q&A on Thursday, and a longer form lesson on the song of the week. And then Wednesday we'll have classes. Actual classes broken out into beginner, intermediate, and advanced level. And those will be, you sign up for and join a Zoom call with me, basically. And, it'll be, free to all who want to join. Okay, so if there's 100 if we have 100 subscribers, that would be incredible. I mean, there's 11,000 subscribers on YouTube, of which not 0 monies have been paid, and that's fine. That's the whole point of the YouTube platform. The point of this is, if you're interested in having a more structured and dedicated access to me, and whatever you think my teaching is worth, I think it actually, for this kind of music, I think it's actually pretty spot on. And I think it represents a unique opportunity within the jam community. Because let's be honest, some of the other online educators are not really up to the task of sound. They just don't. They just don't have the experience. And I'm not trying to knock them. They're dynamite guys, I'm sure, and their hearts are in the right place, and they're trying to share what they know. And that's all I'm trying to do. It's just I think I do that differently than them. I wouldn't say better, but yeah, better. Okay, so whatever. So the idea is, now we have a class day, and then in addition to that, there will be like a weekly wild card idea, like whether it'll be like a blues seminar or a bluegrass seminar or a rhythm guitar breakout room, okay? And so there'll be like a random class on that day as well. So you'll have the opportunity for 4 classes that day. And the good news is, if you miss one of these classes, they're all recorded, and they'll all be labeled and kept in the school archives. And yes, at first, obviously, there will be less material available to people than eventually, but that's kind of the idea, is that over time you and I will form a community together, and you will also get to know your fellow classmates. Because the good news about the school, the platform SKOOL, is that they don't allow you to just be an anonymous person there. You actually have to have like a proper screen name. You can't be Darth Vader 5000 or something like that, right? You can have a clever. I'm sure that they could have some sort of anonymity, but you have to be a real person. You can't have just you can't have a sock account on school, is my understanding. So you'll actually be able to hopefully form a network of players that are like-minded, that you might be able to actually break out with and talk about things separate from my guidance. And likewise, maybe they're in the same city as you, and you guys can get together and jam. There's all kinds of stuff. And we'll probably end up doing some stuff where I'll like release a backing track or something like that, and people can kind of go for it and then post their results. And again, we can sit around and talk about what, let's say somebody just totally knocks it out of the park. I may make that like the subject of a class. Like, listen to what this guy did. He's a really great young student. Let's look at how they are approaching it. Or, obviously with their permission. I wouldn't just like, hey, this is mine now to share with the world. But and then last but not least, I have a lot of friends in this community, and some of them are dynamite players, and maybe an interview or two might take place. So these are the kinds of things that we can expect to see on the school platform, and I have yet to really kind of value what that is worth and how to tier it in case we want to have various levels of access for obviously for maybe there's a budget that you're under, and so studying with me has been very advantageous here because it's all free. But again, it's significantly less structured and less available, okay? And so the idea is also we can cut down on some of the bullshit that takes place here in terms of some of the nimrods that'll occasionally come on there and ask me if I want a massage or something like that in the middle of a, like there's been some nasty stuff that's come over the airwaves over the years. So this kind of thing, what we're doing today, talking about loop building and all that stuff like that. Yeah, this has happened actually. So I'm glad you're laughing, but it was kind of weird when there's like live nude girls came on the. All right, so basically, those are the tools that I'm utilizing, with the exception of one. And I saved my favorite for last. All right. And I hope you guys are still with me, and I hope you understand that it's nothing personal, that I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And if you're currently a private student, please, if you want to stay a private student, that's fine. The whole point of this is actually to free up my time. But my expectation is that some private students will realize they don't need to see me every week, that they could actually save money by being, so September, school starts in September. That's the idea. So everybody's asking when is that going to happen? And the idea would be September. I would love it if anybody feels like they would do it. I would love to get a feel for the community that I'm talking to right now as to whether or not they'd be willing to come on board. And obviously, I guess that would be dependent on price. But provided if anybody's curious, the idea is that to take a private lesson with me, just one lesson is, and I'm not trying to brag, I charge $100. So I was thinking for the price of a lesson, you could have a whole month of access like that. And that would be, like a yearly subscription or something like that would probably be less, than we'll probably have to figure out some sort of way of making it appetizing to people. Because let's be honest, I mean, the idea of guitar lessons online where there's a certain degree of responsibility on you, I think that would be a great value. Yes, I do. But, so the a la carte private lessons would be perfect in your opinion. Okay, great. So that aside, let's talk about this little trick. All right, it's kind of like a hack. All right, so let's remember where we're coming at and what we're trying to service here. We've got a song we're playing out of B Mixolydian. Okay, it's the connective tissue jam between Scarlet and Fire. So B Mixolydian is the fifth mode of E major. So let's take a look at our E string here. Okay, and if you're a current student, you definitely could cut loose now because you've been taught this. But maybe you want to stay for another round of Jack talks about the mirror slide. Okay, so if we have our E string here, I want you to look at the E major scale. Okay, it's a system that's set up with two intervals, right? Whole steps and half steps. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, and half step. So what I want you to do is if you've got your guitar in your hand, which I hope you do, I want you to try to isolate and kind of recognize where the E major has whole steps, all right, that are discrete, right? So that's between here and here. Here, nice sitar sound, huh? All right, and then here. Okay, now granted, this, that's what we're looking to avoid. We don't want to play that. We want to think about this, 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 this. So we've got between E flat, or D sharp rather, and C sharp. All right, C sharp and B. All right. And then, now we're not playing this, even though we're hearing these two notes successively. Okay, this is in succession. We're hearing them as, right, we're not hearing, we're hearing, okay? Just bear with me, okay? So if we do that on the E string, all right, and we hear play Freebird. See, you're one of those people we can do without, dude. But that's fine. It'd be, if I leave here tomorrow. Anyway, we will now reconnect. So if we learn that on the E string, and now do it on the B string, well, pretty soon we'll find a horizontal, pattern that exists on each string of just the whole steps associated with the B Mixolydian or E major scale. Okay, and by utilizing those whole steps with just these two fingers, the ring finger and the index finger, that's what I want you to do. I want you to just practice making sounds against our loop like that. Okay, so there were no half steps in there that were relieved from, right? There was none of that. All right. So once you get used to kind of getting around and identifying where all those whole steps are with the tool, we want to only use this. Okay, I know this is going to seem like there's a couple of steps to this, and there are, but boy, oh boy, does it pay off. And I promise you, I use this all the time, and I think why my screen froze. Huh, that is very strange. Let's see what happened here. Oh, I'm not certain what happened there. Okay, I think I got it back. I'm not sure why YouTube decided to shit the bed there for a second. Okay, so that was all out of B Mixo, yes. Okay, so if we can take that and let's take it now and look at it in what I think of as like stripes. Okay, so we'll take from this stripe. Okay, so if we look at it like in these 4 frets, we see this whole step, this whole step, this whole step, this whole step, this one. Let's try to just make it work within that stripe. Now that we've established the pattern up and down the neck on all strings, right? Next step is to look for this kind of one stripe within one handful, okay? That's the idea. We don't want to take huge steps at once. We want to take a series of smaller, successful steps, right? Building on our success over time. Now let's just try to piece it together here. It's all the same. Let's climb. That sounds good, right? That isn't what I'm hearing in my head, though. I kept hitting spots, and I really want to hear the note that's south of me by 1 or north of me by 1, right? If I was up here and I wanted to hear the sus4 and I really wanted to go and grab that 4 up there, or go and slide up to it, all right? I may have even wanted to use my pinky. Just any way to get to that note. All right, so between those 3 options that are here, I want to discourage you from accessing another finger. I want you to think about yourself and your playing as a machine. And what we're going to try to do is simplify it and have less moving parts. The more moving parts in a machine, the more high maintenance it is, okay? You want to be a simple machine that can't break. That's what you want. You don't want to be a fancy Italian race car with a billion little parts that is expensive and you spend more time under it than in it, okay? I want you to really think about this. We're going to just use this simple tool, and how we're going to get to the half step above and behind the tool is by sliding back or sliding up, all right? First, let's focus on sliding back with the index finger. So you're going to see a lot of this move. Ring, index, backslide, 1 fret or maybe 2 frets, all right? So let's just start on the root here, and we're gonna go like this. Just back. Down, up, slide. Okay, try that, okay? Going back, right? So I'm going down, up, slide. Whole step slide. Down, up, slide, hammer. 4 notes, 2 strokes. Practice that. Now let's take a look at this, right? We've got, right, and that puts us right in this fret. Same shape, just down a string. Very easy. Okay, now let's try climbing. Okay, let's go on the back side of this shape. Let's come here and do up. Tool, slide up. Back, back, up. Okay, down, up, slide, down, up, slide, down, up, slide. Down, up, down, up, down, up. That's how I'm doing that, okay? there, but let's focus here. Okay, so you're hearing me kind of build this idea, what I call the mirror slide. And the reason why is that it has some symmetrical shapes, both in top to bottom and left to right. All right. The top to bottom symmetries are here when we go like this, down, up, back slide a whole step and a hammer on. If we reverse that, okay, the mirror slide. So it's a mirror image of that. We're going to have down, up, slide, pull off. 1, 2, 3, 4 instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, right? We have a pull off at the top and a hammer on the low string. Hammer, right? As opposed to pull off. Okay, so we've got a 4-note structure with 2 picks. And here, and in the middle here, we have these interlocking shapes that are kind of mirror images of one another from a left to right perspective rather than a bottom and top. That's this part where we're sliding back with the index finger on the string. And if we look at these 4 notes, right, this would be where we use the tool and slide up. Here we would use the tool and slide back. And we have a symmetrical thing here as well. So these 2 strings kind of interlock like that. Ah, shit, got a meeting. We'll be on the lookout for announcement about school and classes. Thanks. Yeah, it'll be coming soon. If you're not a subscriber, sign up so that I can keep you posted about this. You ring that little bell. That would really help me actually stay in touch. So if you're watching but you're not a subscriber, I'm not really interested in spamming anybody. I don't really give a shit about any of that, but subscribing would help me keep you notified. Obviously, you know, my absence hopefully would be somewhat conspicuous as well, and you would realize, oh shit, he's probably done that. You'll look it up. I'll try to be not too much of a Bible thumper about it, but I'll get out there. I'll try to get the word out for sure, okay? But that should be happening over the course of the next couple of months, okay? Cool. So this idea of seeing the whole steps and connecting them with these little slides. Okay, and that's just as it pertains to this position of the B Mixolydian scale. There's going to be other ones. We could do this. Right, we're seeing those as the whole steps. And then a whole step. And then a half step. The right hand only has to accommodate 2 pick strokes to access those 3 notes. So it's like, depending on how you want to do the math, is that a 50% boost in speed or a 33% boost in speed? Definitely a great way of creating more density in your lines. That means more stuffing in your sausage, right? Which we could all use that. So the idea is there's more going on with no more added burden to the right hand. And in fact, we're never even asked to rotate our hand. We're just going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, just like we were playing ascending pentatonics going or descending. But imagine hearing a triplet for every one of those duplets, right? We're hearing for every two, we get a bonus. So amortized across the scale, that's a tremendous amount of ease brought to the right hand, which translates to more horsepower available and bandwidth in your head for thinking of melodic ideas that you're not devoting towards focusing on your right hand picking technique. As the secondary bonus of also not sounding quite so so mechanical, right? If I hear click, 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 picky, picky, the whole time going, sometimes hearing like quiet little pick, like the kind of like mumbled kind of picking. I like that. That sounds pretty cool because it has this like tactile sound, right? It's a very has a very textured kind of sound. But when I'm playing fast like that, I need to smooth out my picking. My picking is absolutely incapable of rendering that in a way that I find aesthetically happy. I listen to that. If I pick this bright, this clean, over, it's very, very like diggy, 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 diggy. It's very jackhammery, very quick. Okay, no pun on my name intended, but there it is, right? I don't really like that sound, so I like introducing that little bit of legato to it. It's kind of smooths it out, keeps it easy going. All right, so that's kind of the idea of this technique. All right, and this little exercise right here, I call it the mirror slide usually, but you know, whatever. All right, I definitely have taught it to a bunch of you out there. If you're tuning in later or you're a current student, definitely, I doubt I've hidden that from you. I can't shut up about that, all right? So that'll probably cover us for today. I've done my level best to share how I approach the jam, minus a couple of maybe more advanced moves, which I'm not like withholding deliberately. I'm just running out of time here. And you know, that's pretty much it. There's nothing much. Does anybody have any? Thank you, Ramsey. That's I'll see you next week. Or are you Ramsey's a current student? Ramsey, tell him how great I am. No. Anyway, does anybody have any questions or anything they want to add to the conversation here before I sign off here? I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to threaten people. I'm gonna leave. I'm happy to be here in a way. You know, there's an element of all this that there's nothing I'd rather be talking about. So, awesome. Oh, he's awesome. Plus a really nice man. Thank you. I hope I have a good weekend. Yeah. Great freebie today. Great freebie today. Oh, freebie, like free lesson. Sure. Look, I mean, in a way, I think education should be free, right? In an ideal world, knowledge would be shared equally among the knowledgeable and the curious, right? It should be that way. But unfortunately, teachers are not, I don't make a lot of money. I mean, I do okay for working in my basement, and I do what I want to do. But the truth is, I'm kind of backed into a corner. This is all I really understand. You've seen me struggle with my own telephone. You know, in a future session here, you think you can discuss how we might play outside in the transition? Yes, obviously. I mean, the easiest way to think about playing outside of things is there's elements of sidestepping, side slipping. That's like momentarily inhabiting a chromatically adjacent sound. So if we were playing, you know, like a pentatonic sound over top of the B, we could go accessing some of those outside sounds, right? So, I mean, you're literally just looking at the adjacent sounds. The other thing we can do is approach the, like an arpeggio from one step below, or utilizing our things like enclosures and things like that. So we could look at, you know, there's the one that I like here is where we look at the B7 chord here. And we approach the third from one below. And then we hit the root. And then we approach the flat 7 from one below. And then approach the third. And then approach the 9 from one below. So you're hearing me approach the, like a B9 chord like this, and a B6 chord. Blah, blah. So if we were to like kind of take a James Brown funk motif of, all right, so that's B7 with a 9, and then sliding up to a 6. Right? So the front end of our line is going to be that B6 triad, and the back is going to be this B9 triad. So boom, ba-da. So anytime we have a dominant chord and we want to take it out, we approach the back notes, that's the 7-9 chord, from one fret beneath. Okay, there it is. And then we just go turn it into a triplet figure. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then we could then take this little cell and move them around. I went, right? Came back, grabbed the flat 3 and bent up. So you end up with something like that. So if we put on the sauce, the octavert. There's only one really outside note in that whole thing, right? These approach tones, the flat third, we've already kind of accepted in our Western palette. The 6 to 7 is purely modal. That's completely inside. It's this one. Okay. And so if we keep that idea going and we look for other ones, we can find it here. We don't want to do that, but right, and then we could do Lots of good fun stuff. So that's about as complete an answer as I can give to how I would probably go outside. It is pretty hip, and it's not my idea. It's exactly whoever was the guy with the big ears that said sounds like King Solomon's marbles. That is what I call the King Solomon's marbles enclosure. All right, and it is actually that's one of my oldest videos on YouTube. It's played on an acoustic guitar, and I'm just showing you how to access it opposite the A chord. But it it's against an A7 in that video. And that's a good example of the kind of teaching that I mean, for 5 years that's been available. And so I don't know why, but maybe it's because there's 300 videos. It's a lot to look for, that one thing buried in there. It's kind of like out of all the grains of sand on the beach, looking for one specific one is pretty tough. So I'm happy that you piped up and asked a question. That's how I approach playing outside over something like this. And it's not that outside. It's really not. I'm not really that big a fan of side slipping. I don't really like that sound. And I'm actually not that big a fan of playing altered over top of dominant. I don't really like that sound. That's the kind of like using altered or the diminished scale to superimpose like more outside tonalities. I don't really like that sound. I don't feel the need to do it. If I'm going to get outside, I would rather get outside by utilizing things more like this kind of sound, where we're looking at like an octave with a lot of fuzz and a lot of repeats or something, maybe. Utilizing these whole steps like this. We do that kind of this, keeping our hands on adjacent strings a whole step apart. And kind of climbing chromatically. And at that point, I'm kind of pushing into the dissonance that I'm after, more so than deliberately using like a weird scrunky device, like I'm kind of allowing the metaphor I've used with students 100 times. It's a lot easier for me to do my George Washington impression when I put on a big fluffy white powdered wig and a 3-corner hat and the buckle shoes and the weird pantaloons. All right, it's a lot easier for me to sound outside when I put on the psychedelic fuzz and octave divider and start thinking, it's time for me to go into freak out mode, right? I'll turn the guitar effectively into a synthesizer with that much overdrive and octave overtones. It's like, oh wow, what's that moogie sound, or moog, I guess is how the man's name was actually pronounced. So those kind of square wave adventures, and deliberately building tension across chromatically ascending things. The other thing you can do is break that apart into on the B and G string, right? If we do that here, that's a scale tone, actually chord tone and a scale tone, right? So we can do this. I love that. And then you can get even freakier by going. Okay, so we're using a minor third spread, still on 2 adjacent strings. So that's me going. It gives it kind of this kind of kaleidoscopic kind of, oh my God. And as it builds tension, if somebody's doing that behind you, it's pretty captivating. So, and some of my tricks, whatever. Anyway, boys, girls, ladies, gentlemen, friends, Roman countrymen, guitar players, and noodlers alike. I will see you all later on the flip side, and be on the lookout for a sign-up sheet or something like that. And if you have ideas or comments regarding the price structure and how to tier something like this, I'm all ears. I'm actually interested in hearing what people think makes sense. I don't want to do something that's unfair to anybody, but then again, I got mouths to feed. All right, so I hope everybody's got love in their heart and music in their soul, and I'll see you guys next time. All right, cheers.